The South African economy is in even more trouble than earlier thought. The economy entered a recession in the fourth quarter of last year, contracting by 1.4%, even deeper than 0.8% decline in the third quarter. The local economy managed to grow only 0.2% for the whole of 2019. We are now joined by Michael Manamela, who's the Chief Director at National Accounts at Stats SA in Pretoria, who joins us from our Pretoria evening. Good evening and welcome to The Full View. What are some of the industries that have led to this particular decline?
Good evening to you and the viewers. Basically, there's about 7 industries that declined in the fourth quarter. However, there's 3 main ones. The largest one was the transport and communication, where we saw that there was some activities that slowed down in relation to exports of coal, which had an impact on the transport sector, on the freight side. We also saw that there was a contraction in respect of transportation of passengers through buses and trains, and that basically led to the decline in the transport and communication sector. The second one was the trade sector, which declined by 3.8%. And this is largely driven by the fact that your wholesale sector, your motor trade sector, as well as your accommodation industries also showed a decline in the fourth quarter. The only positive sign came from the retail sector, but that was not enough to carry the trade sector in totality. And the third one was manufacturing, which declined by 1.8%. and largely driven by declines in your production of motor vehicles as well as your wood and wood products.
Looking at the agriculture sector, which declined by 7.6%, the biggest decline, what led to this? Because the assumption from some have been that the drought, that the country has moved out of the drought, and therefore the agriculture sector is expected to do much better.
Yeah, I mean, agriculture, I think, is one of those special industries, because if you miss the first part of harvest of planting, you basically lose almost the entire cycle. So I think the rains that we have in the recent past, they were a bit late. So I guess if anything, the rains would have an impact on future growth of agriculture, but not for the current quarter.
And let's look at the finance sector and their contribution being 2.7%, a 2.7% increase in that industry. What are some of those aspects that have led to this particular increase in the finance sector?
The finance sector continues to surprise on the positive. I mean, it's one of those areas where it's been positive for a very long time. But basically, you see that there's activities in relation to your financial services as well as your insurance activities. So there's somehow households are involved in purchasing cover, either for life cover or for any other form of insurance. And that's really what is driving the financial sector.
Is it also fair to say that the finance sector is now seen to be one of those industries that are actually carrying the economy? We know that looking at, for instance, the mining sector, and there's an increase of about 1.8%, but many have been saying that the mining sector, which has been a dominant sector within the South African economy, has been hit very hard, and therefore it is the finance sector that seems to be carrying the economy.
Look, I mean, generally the tertiary sector is the one that has always carried the economy. In many cases, is the one that is always on a positive phase. And finance as well as government are normally the big industries that are normally carrying the economy. But in this quarter, the government sector was down, mainly due to the declining number of employees, mainly in your national provincial government, in relation to terminations, as well as higher education institutions, where we saw that there were some contract employees which were terminated in the last quarter.
And finally, listening to some analysts, they predicted that even the first quarter of 2020, that we might just experience a decline, especially now that the country is also dealing with the coronavirus, which has, of course, affected the rest of the world.
Look, I guess the current prevailing outbreak would definitely have a negative impact. Whether it will be substantive enough to lead us into a negative trajectory, I think we'll all have to wait for March next year.
Okay, then thank you so much. That is Michael Manamela, the Chief Director of National Accounts at Stats SA, joining us in Pretoria. Let's move over to this story. President